Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's 1 minute after 1, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I know you can't see me, but my name is Lauren Tostenson, and I serve as the Public Information Officer for the Planning Department with El Paso County. I've kind of helped put this series together with the planning staff, and we're really excited to have you guys. I know that this is a topic that is on a lot of people's minds, our applicants, our developers, and so we're glad to have another topic we can help break down for you guys and make it easy to understand, because the goal of EPC Engage is just to make all this county stuff a little bit more accessible for you guys and easier to understand so that we can work better together. So we're very glad that you guys are all here. And also, just as a heads up, I'll give this reminder at the end as well. We record every one of these. And so if you have a colleague or a work partner, somebody who you think might be interested in watching it, just because they're not here today, they're not missing it. It will be recorded and put on the EPC Engage website, which you can find on the main county planning website. So that's just kind of something we do because we know people have crazy schedules, and we want to make this available. There's also a library of all of our past EPC Engages that you guys can watch through, all different topics that apply to our, our technical partners. So that's a good resource for you, and we hope you'll check that out after today's webinar. Today, we're focusing on the county's road impact fee. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Let me just go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint and we'll get rolling. So first thing we wanted to let you guys know before we get started on today's topic is our next two EPC Engage topics are going to be, normally we do them every other month, but we had an issue with March, so we're just going to do them back to back in April and May. So April 2022, you guys can join us for a webinar on developing in the floodplain. And in May, you guys can join us for an EPC Engage focusing on soils and geology reports. So again, not every webinar applies to everybody, but we are trying to pick topics that are pretty universal and interesting to everyone. And that also goes to say, if you guys have suggestions for something that you'd like us to dive into, please let us know and we'll do our best to get it into the rotation. So for today's presenters, we've got three folks, mainly two, who are going to lead the charge today. We've got Lori Seago, who is a senior county attorney with our county attorney's office, and she manages most of the legal matters with the planning department. And we've got Victoria Chavez, who's with our Department of Public Works, and she's a principal transportation planner. And then also on the call today is Elizabeth Nijkamp, who will be jumping in to help with any questions at the end. She's our engineering manager for the planning department at the county. So you've got a lot of good folks here, some experts on the topic of the road impact fee. They know everything there is to know about it. And we're going to go through a presentation for about 20 minutes or so. And then after that, the thing that we like the best about these is we're going to have lots of time for questions. And you guys can get as detailed as you want. Hopefully we'll have an answer for you. But please don't hesitate to put them in to the Q&A box. You guys will see that in the top right of your screen. And you can just type in questions throughout the presentation. I'll be keeping track of those. And then we'll do a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So please throw out whatever is on your mind. This is your access to these, these experts without having to call or email or anything like that. So please utilize us and utilize this time that we've made available. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lori Seago, who's going to get us started on explaining the road impact fee. Lori?
Good afternoon, everyone. As Lauren said, I'm Lori Seago. I'm a senior assistant county attorney with the county attorney's office, and one of my primary duties is to represent both the Planning and Community Development Department and the Department of Public Works. So the first question, of course, is what is the road impact fee? It's a fee that was developed and adopted pursuant to state statute. And what it does is that it requires a proportional contribution by new development to the cost of expanding or building new regional roads to accommodate the additional traffic that new development tends to generate. The program relies on the Major Transportation Corridors Plan, which is a planning document that the county updates every 5 years. And then the rules regarding the program are governed by an implementation document. In general, the road impact fee applies to all new developments, which includes new homes, new buildings, and new land uses. It's important to note that the impact fee only covers the construction of new roads or the expansion of existing roads. It doesn't provide any funding for road maintenance. those fees are held, and these impact fees are held separately from all other county funds and used only for these purposes. The fee program, we're really proud of it because it is more predictable, it saves time, and it levels the playing field whether you are a small landowner or a large developer. The road impact fee was developed and adopted in 2012 after a 2-year process, so it's been with us for almost 10 years. And it improves the equity between all those who, by creating new development, contribute to the need for regional improvements, and those who end up having to build those regional improvements. The cost of the impacts that are created by new development are designed to be borne by that development. So everyone contributes to the construction or expansion of roads, again, whether you're a small developer or a large developer. One thing that it's important to note that has continued, that existed before the program and continues on today, is that if you come in with a new development, whether it's just a site plan for a single home, or whether it's a whole new subdivision or a commercial development, if the traffic that you generate from that new development warrants the construction of new improvements, you will be required to build those improvements. You are required to build what is needed in order to make your specific project work. That requirement has not changed. Next slide. So I thought we'd start with just a short discussion as to how we calculate the fee. How do we get to the amount that you will be charged when you come in with your new development? And as I said, we start with the Major Transportation Corridors Plan. This is a map that is contained within that plan, and it identifies the regional improvements that we anticipate will be needed in the next 20 years as development occurs. Next slide. Once we've identified those new roads that will be needed, we also try to project over that 20-year time period how much development will occur and what types of development will occur and how many trips that new development will generate. So then we take the cost of the improvements that will be needed over the next 20 years and we divide it by the number of trips that new development is going to generate, and we come up with the fee table that you see in front of you. This is based on, these are based on general land use categories. So as you can see, they're not particularly specific, but most, if not all of the development that occurs, we are able to fit into one of these categories and derive the applicable fee for your particular project. And again, it's based on the number of trips that your land use or your project is estimated to generate. Next slide. So who pays the fee? The intent is for all new development to pay the fee. All new land uses, whether they require a structure or not, and new structures that generate new trips are required to pay the fee. Anything that requires a land use approval, and those examples include building permits, access permits, site plans, site development plans, special use approvals, or variance of use approvals. So anytime you obtain a land use approval as it's defined under the program, you will be assessed the fee. A couple of examples of who does not pay the fee: temporary uses as defined in the Land Development Code, or if you're reestablishing a use or rebuilding a structure that was destroyed or demolished, if that use or structure was legal at the time it was destroyed. Other than that, there are no exceptions to the fee. We don't grant hardship exemptions based on inability to pay. We don't we don't allow for exemptions based on other types of contributions or other arrangements. It's a pretty straightforward fee that applies to all land use approvals. Next slide, please. A couple of other exceptions or special cases. If there was a residential plat that paid the fee in total for all lots at the time the plat was recorded, Then once those individual lots come in for their building permits, they will not be obligated to pay the fee again. There are also special circumstances that have been put into place for certain metro districts in the unincorporated county. The reason for these special cases is that these districts had contractual agreements with El Paso County regarding contributions to regional improvements and the payment of fees for those improvements in place before we adopted the countywide fee program. So in an attempt to incorporate those prior agreements into the program, we've developed some special payment provisions for property within these metro districts. If you go to the assessor's website for your particular parcel, you should be able to find out if your property lies within one of these metro districts. If it does, please work with your county planner to determine how much, if any, of the fee will apply to your project. Next slide. So the fee is triggered or is due when that land use approval is issued. If your use or structure requires multiple land use approval, then we try to wait until the final land use approval that's required occurs. So for example, if you've got a final plat, you may have, you'll have the final plat, and then that will be followed by various construction permits, building permits, etc. And we try to defer payment of the fee until the last permit that will be required. The purpose for that is just to ensure we are accurately charging the fee, because by the time you get your building permit, we'll have a good idea of what type of use and how big that use is, so that we can more accurately calculate your fee. As an alternative, residential subdivisions only can choose, if they want, to pay the impact fee at the time of plat recording and pay it for all of the residential lots within that subdivision. For all other types of land use approvals, then you do have to defer payment again until the time of building permit application or even a later land use approval if appropriate, so that we can get that accurate amount. Next slide. The El Paso County program is unique in the state and perhaps in the country for offering a number of fee payment options. When it comes time for you to pay the fee, you can pay your fee in full at the time of land use approval. Another option to pay that's available for plats only, not for individual parcels, is to join a public improvement district. In connection with this program, El Paso County created 2 public improvement districts to provide an alternative to paying the fee in full at the time of building permit. If you join a district, then a mill levy will be assessed against your property for a 20-year period. The purpose of that is to reduce the amount of the fee that you will pay up front, because the remainder of your fee will be paid through property taxes over that 20-year period. After that 20-year period expires, then the public improvement district that you are in will dissolve, and you'll no longer have that property tax obligation. Your fee will be paid in full. A third way to pay the impact fee is to use fee program credits. And I'll discuss in a moment how you can obtain fee program credits, but those can be applied to the impact fee that's due at the time of land use approval. Speaking of credits, if you can stay back there, Lauren, go back to the previous. Thanks. Speaking of credits, once you obtain credits, you can use those credits, as I just stated, to pay future fees, but you can also trade or sell those fees to someone else. If you're someone who only has a single project in the county and you obtain impact fee credits based on an improvement that you build or that you contribute to, and you don't anticipate needing those credits for future development in the county, you're free to trade or sell those to someone else. You can also hold on to those impact fee credits and put yourself on a list to get reimbursed from fees that are collected from other developers. In order to use your credits, however you choose to use them, you do need to have a credit use authorization, a credit use authorization receipt signed by county staff in order to do that, so that we can keep track of credits and making sure that we're not overpaying or underpaying anyone. Next slide, please. So how are credits in our program established? Credits can be granted for a variety of actions. They can be granted for making a contribution or payment toward an eligible improvement or an eligible intersection improvement. They can be granted for dedicating land for right-of-way for those types of improvements. They can be granted for actually constructing eligible improvements or eligible intersection improvements, or they can be granted for making a CDOT signal escrow payment for those projects that are required to contribute to a state or a CDOT signal as part of their project. I should go back. I neglected to tell you what an eligible improvement or an eligible intersection improvement is. An eligible improvement refers to road segments, the road segments that are identified on the MTCP map that I showed you earlier in the presentation. There's also a list of them, a table of them in the implementation document that governs the program. And those are, again, road segments for regional roadway improvements that we anticipate needing in the next 20 years. And those are called eligible improvements. We also have added to the program eligible intersection improvements for the construction of intersections. Unlike the eligible improvements, which we have specifically identified, the intersection improvements are not specifically identified. We've included the cost of 63 eligible intersection improvements in the program that can be funded, but we have not specifically identified them because it's much harder to predict where and when those will be needed. We have established criteria for intersections that would qualify as eligible intersection improvements, but you would need to work with your county planner and the county engineering team that's reviewing your project to determine if the intersection would qualify as an eligible intersection improvement. So again, if you've taken any of those actions, you can obtain credits for contributing to those eligible improvements. The work that you do must be done in connection with new development in unincorporated El Paso County. If you are developing in the city and the city requires you to construct what in our program would be an eligible improvement, unfortunately, you are not eligible to obtain credits through our program for constructing that eligible improvement because it's done in connection with a city development. In addition, if you're not eligible to obtain credits for any contributions that you made prior to the program being established or prior to coming in for your project or improvements that have already been built. Next slide, please. So this slide just gets kind of into some of the finer details of how you establish credits if you are going to be responsible for building or contributing to an eligible improvement or an eligible intersection improvement. Please make sure that you work with your county planner to get a preliminary credit agreement in place before you start construction of the improvement or before you dedicate the right-of-way or other resources toward the improvement. What that preliminary credit agreement will do is make sure all parties are on the same page in terms of what's going to be built and how much in credits we think you're going to get. I spoke earlier about identifying those eligible intersection improvements, which are not specifically identified in the program. That's done through the Road Impact Fee Advisory Committee, who will approve whether or not a particular intersection qualifies as an eligible intersection improvement. Once the improvement that you're building is preliminarily accepted by the county, that's when your credits are actually finalized and created. Credits are calculated based on the same unit costs that we use to calculate the fee. It's important to note that the fee program is not designed to reimburse those who have to build eligible improvements at 100% of the cost. We use unit costs, and unit costs are a certain percentage of what we estimate the total cost of construction to be. The reason we don't reimburse at 100% is that if we did so, we'd have to charge a higher fee in order to collect the fees that would actually be adequate to reimburse at 100%. So when the program was established, the Board of County Commissioners, with the recommendation of the steering committee that worked on creating the fee, to create a balance between the amount of the fee and the costs that would be eligible for reimbursement. So again, you get credits based on the unit cost, not based on 100% of the cost of construction. And as I stated earlier, once you've got the credits, you can use those to offset future fees. You can request reimbursement for them, or you can trade or sell them to other parties. Next slide. So credits are often a big subject, of course, for those who have to build or contribute to eligible improvements. So here are some further tips for navigating credits and making sure that you get the credits to which you're entitled. Consider at your early assistance stage whether the project will trigger a requirement to construct or contribute to an eligible improvement or an eligible intersection improvement. If your development or project requires a traffic impact study, please ask your traffic engineer to include consideration of eligible improvements in the study. Make sure you complete a credit agreement before you make a monetary contribution or dedication, or before you begin construction. Remember, as I stated at the very beginning of this presentation, the fact that we have an impact fee program does not in any way negate a particular developer's requirement to build whatever improvements are needed to make that particular development work. And then the creation of credits, make sure that staff is incorporating the creation of credits into the preliminary acceptance process, which always goes before the Board of County Commissioners, and make sure that you as the credit applicant know to complete an application for credits at that time. Next slide, please. Well, that went a lot quicker than I anticipated. Sorry if I talked too fast or glossed over anything. Happy to answer any questions down the road, but we did want to make sure that you have this website. This website on the Department of Public Works page at elpasoco.com is chock full of information about the road impact fee. It includes that map that I showed you at the beginning of the slide presentation. It includes the implementation document itself, where you've got the various rules that govern the program. It has the fee schedule, so you can see what fees might be applicable to your project. It has all of the documents that we used, including the impact fee study, to tell you how we got to the fee. That includes a variety of forms and templates, facts and fact sheets, to try to help you learn more about this program as much as you wish.
All right, thank you, Lori. And just so you guys have a visual of this website, the link is a little long, so I wanted to leave it up for everyone to write down. It will also be linked with this recording later on, but we'll just show you guys real quick what this looks like. You can find it as underneath our Public Works page. As you guys can see on the link, it starts with publicworks.elpasoco.com. And I'll just go ahead and pull it up for you real quick, and then we'll come back to the PowerPoint. So alrighty. So you guys should be seeing it now. This is the road impact fee site. So as Lori explained, it's got the fee schedule, the implementation documentation, road impact fee study lists, the unit costs, ineligible improvements, and then we've got credit. A lot of the information that we went over today, or Lori went over today, is all on this webpage as well. So if something wasn't totally clear, they do a really good job of breaking it down here for you guys. And again, just copy down that link. I'll throw it up again one more time. And then you guys should be able to get even more information than you did through the presentation. So got too many windows open here. Let me go back to Teams and I will swap it out and put that link back up there for you guys. I can put it in the chat as well if you guys want to copy and paste it somewhere. But for now, we're going to go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint, and we'll go ahead and jump into our question portion. So if you guys haven't done so already, we've got a couple of questions, but feel free to go to the Q&A tab in the, you guys should see it in the top right hand corner of your Teams window. It's the one with the two little chat bubbles and a question mark. That'll open the Q&A, and you can go ahead and just type in your questions there, and we'll go ahead and run through as many as we get because we have plenty of time. Lori was very efficient, so that's good. So there's the link again too, if you guys want to write that down, and I will also put it in the Q&A box for you guys to copy and paste. So here's, we'll get rolling with the questions here. So we've got one question that just came in. If a structure is not being built, how can I determine my fee from the fee schedule? Lori or Victoria, you want to take that?
You want to start with that, Victoria?
Sure. Hi, I'm Victoria Chavez. I'm the Principal Transportation Planner. So we do have within the program some guidelines to help us with that. We can take a look at what you're building based on the Institute of Transportation Engineer manual, and that helps us to look at trip rates for items that don't have a structure. If we don't come up with something there, we can work with our impact fee administrator to help come up with something.
Great. Lori, you want to add anything to that?
I don't. You know, there, as Victoria said, there are guidelines in the implementation document that help us determine fees for those uses, including those that don't include structures that don't easily fall into one of the categories in the table.
Awesome.
I will say that on that website, there is a frequently asked question, and there is a memo about land uses that don't require structures at the very end of that memo. So I'd check that out too.
Okay, great. And that link is still up there. I'm going to leave it up for a couple more seconds for you guys in case you haven't written it down. Then we're going to just go ahead to the question slide. All right, we've got another question here. In regards to the section on who pays the fee, this person wants to know, what about a redevelopment? The fee was already paid for a specific use. Why would the fee need to be paid again unless the trip generation is higher?
So that's actually the exact answer. If the redevelopment has higher trips than what the old development was, we take a look at that new development trip rate, we subtract what was already developed there, and your fee would be based on the difference between the two.
Awesome. And by the way, if you guys have follow-up questions, feel free to go ahead and throw them in there. We can come back to that if you feel like you have something else you want to add to your question. All right, we've got another one here. So during the development review process, if the county requests additional roadway construction that isn't required to make the development work, but would be beneficial to the county, would that additional roadway construction be eligible for a credit even if the improvement isn't an eligible roadway improvement? And that was a really long question, Lori and Victoria. If you want to look at that again, it's in the published section of the Q&A. So I'll read it one more time. During the development review process, if the county requests additional roadway construction that isn't required to make the development work, but would be beneficial to the county, would that additional roadway construction be eligible for a credit, even if the improvement isn't an eligible roadway improvement?
I'll take an initial stab at that. This is Lori. So there's actually a lot going on in that question. So Anything above and beyond what is required to make the development work would be the subject of negotiation between the county and the developer. In general, the county can't require more of a developer than what is in fact needed to make that development work. Additional roadways that may be beneficial to the county are do not typically qualify as eligible improvements and would not be eligible for a credit. Eligible improvements are in fact specifically defined as those that appear in the MTCP and are specifically identified not only in the MTCP but in the various tables and appendices to the MTCP. However, we're certainly not perfect, and there may be a regional improvement out there that we didn't anticipate needing to be built, but now it's suddenly come up and it does need to be built. There is a process for adding an improvement to the MTCP, which would thus make it eligible for credits, but it does have to meet certain minimum criteria, such as one of which is it can't be a local road, for example. It can't be a neighborhood road. So there is a process to do that, but that requires going through the Road Impact Fee Advisory Committee and the Board of County Commissioners to make that change to the program. Anything to add to that, Victoria?
Just one little thing. If the road is not currently on the MTCP anywhere, we actually may have to amend the Major Transportation Corridor Plan. And in that case, the new road would have to go through the Highway Advisory Commission, to the Planning Commission twice, and then to the Board of County Commissioners, as well as the Road Impact Fee Program. So if it's a road that is completely new, not identified anywhere on the MTCP, it would need to be adopted into the MTCP. If you have any of those within the next couple of years, we're actually going to be updating our Major Transportation Corridor Plan. So it would be good to get involved in that process once it starts in the next few months, and let us know what you're planning to develop and what roads you may need to be built that you think are regional improvements that should be considered in the Road Impact Fee Program.
Awesome. We just got some feedback that they're really enjoying the answers to the questions, and a big thank you. So keep it up, ladies. We've got another one here about intersection improvements. So this one asks if an intersection improvement determined to be eligible for credits is affiliated with a project that will be paying transportation impact fees, can those fees go directly to that reimbursement? Do you want me to read that again?
No, that's okay. So the answer to that is no, because basically we have a process in the implementation document that determines the order for when things are paid out of and reimbursed to credit holders. And so it's done in order of when they were built. So your fees will go into a giant pot and they then get reimbursed to the next person on the credit list. I will highlight that at this time, we do not have any credit holders waiting for reimbursement. So if you are the next person on the list, whatever funds are in the public improvement district are available for reimbursement. So there is not a waiting period at this moment.
Victoria, this is Elizabeth Nykamp. Could you speak to the deferment of fees if a site has fees due, but also has a public improvement that is reimbursable to build? Are they allowed to defer those fees?
No.
Or any portion thereof?
No, the fees are due at the same process for everyone. So at those times of land use approval, and if the building comes later, the fees get paid first, the credit gets established after the improvement is built, and then you can get reimbursement. So no, we do not have an offset sort of fees that you don't have to pay them now because you're going to build later. That is not a process that this program allows.
Thank you.
And for those of you who are listening and may be familiar with our drainage fee program, drainage and bridge fee program, that is a difference between the two programs. That is an option in the drainage fee program, but it is not in the road impact fee program.
Great, thank you. We've got one more here and that will be it. So if you guys do have a question you've been waiting to submit, go ahead and submit it now so we don't miss you. What if I construct all private roads myself? Can my fee be reduced?
The answer to that question is no. If you build all private roads, that's what you need to build to make your development work, or that you choose to make your development work. What this road impact fee program pays for are the larger major highways and roads. So at some point, people that live on your private road will drive on one of the major public roads to get to work, to go shopping. And so this impact fee program covers those larger road, not local roads that everybody lives on, and not private roads.
Got it. And then the last one that I've got here is if I have a small development and only construct half of the necessary road improvements, can the portion constructed be reimbursable?
That's an if, and it depends. So it depends if you build half of an eligible road improvement and you've built it to engineering criteria standards and you've gotten the approval of the county engineer to do so, it is potentially reimbursable for half of the unit cost.
Okay.
But if you were building, for example, if you're building a one-way road where a two-way road is required, I don't think that that would be something that would work. If you have to build 2 lanes of a 4-lane road, that's something that we can consider splitting the fee for, or splitting the credit for.
Before we move forward, Lori, Victoria, Elizabeth, Nina, anything you guys want to add?
I do have one more thing, Lauren, please.
Okay, yeah.
Victoria, could you explain how easy this reimbursement process is? I know it was in the slides, but I think our developers and our consultants are used to the drainage fee reimbursement where they have to submit invoices, bids, 3 bids, etc. Could you explain really how easy the reimbursement process is if they've gone through the appropriate steps prior to construction?
Yes, so if you have an established credit and you would like to have reimbursement for that, all you have to do is send me an email and ask me to have your credit put on the reimbursement list. At that time, we will take it to the Road Impact Fee Advisory Committee. If there are funds in the impact fee account and you are the next person up for a credit, we take that request to the Road Impact Fee Advisory Committee. They vote yes or no. And if they vote yes, then our finance department takes a resolution to our Board of County Commissioners and you get sent a check.
So there's no biannual waiting for reimbursements like there is in the drainage fee program. And also there's no submitting and reviewing of bid documents and invoices and that lengthy process that goes through the drainage reimbursements. So this is a very simple process as long as you do the steps prior to construction. So I just wanted to make sure all the people listening understand how easy this process is. Thanks, Victoria. That's a perfect way to explain it.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question, Elizabeth.
Right, thank you. So I think that wraps up all of our questions. I'm trying to get to the slide that, there we go. You guys should now be seeing, we've got just a friendly reminder about our upcoming EPC Engage events. So not next time for March is normally when we would do it because we typically do it every other month. But this time we'll be doing it in April, I believe in the first week. And that one will be on developing in the floodplain. And then we'll do it again the following month back to our regular schedule, which is these normally fall for those of you who are attending the first time. We usually do it the last Wednesday of every other month at 1 p.m. So again, the EPC Engage website, which you can find on the main planning website for the county, has all of these details. It will also have the recording of today's meeting And then I will also send out an email with today's recording for everyone who's on our list. But for those who aren't on our list, they can just find it on the planning website. And I'll go ahead and put the EPC Engage website here in the chat so you guys can see it in the Q&A section. And that way you guys can copy and paste it down if you want to. Just let me get that copied here. I just want to thank everybody for joining us, our presenters and all of our attendees. We have really good attendance today. So this must have been a popular topic people were wondering about, which makes us happy because that's why we're doing this this series. We want to make sure you guys are able to learn more and ask the questions about the things that you want to know about. So we know a lot of this stuff can be confusing, especially if you're just getting into working with the county and the planning process and development. So hopefully today's webinar and the other ones that you'll find on the EPC Engage site that I just put there in the Q&A, go ahead and go on there and check out the past ones we've put together and the upcoming topics that we're looking ahead to presenting about. And just thank you everyone for joining us. Thanks to the presenters, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.